Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. The 2005 session is finally over. We're back in the studio, and Randy Thompson has the rundown.
That's right, Sam. It was an exhaustive session, and we have most of the recuperated people here today, all pundits, talking about what really happened down there.
More pundits than you can shake a stick at. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
Here at the Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center, water resources come from fresh, clean groundwater, approved by state permits. The water is pumped from wells to million-gallon storage tanks and then distributed to TRI companies. Another amenity is our investment in a state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant. This disposal system converts waste to clean water for industrial applications. Welcome to the Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevada.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
As an employer, did you know you can be held liable for negligent hiring? A background screening by Employer Links can uncover criminal records, like alcohol and drug convictions. It can verify the applicant's education, driving records, and professional licenses. Employer Links can check civil records, registered sex offender records, and Social Security fraud. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
I tell you, John, this industry has really changed.
Tell me about it.
You seemed to do pretty well last year. What's your secret?
No secrets. Although I'll tell you something. The smartest thing I did was sign up with Pro Group Management.
Really? Yeah, they do workers' comp, right?
Yeah, their services are great. And get this, they saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
That works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
I'm back on Nevada Newsmakers. Sorry. You behave here. Joining us today, we have all kinds of pundits for you today. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bob Crowell is here with the Crowell Group, Howard Rosenberg, University Regent, and John Gwaltney with the State School Board. Let's start off with you, Bob. Millennium Scholarship, it's saved for the time being.
I think that's a big coup for the governor, it's a big coup for the legislators, and it's a big coup for the state of Nevada and our kids. That's huge. It's huge because that's the way that's the essence of education. Can't say enough good about it. It's great.
What changes were made in the legislation now?
Well, they bumped up the grade requirement, and
which
also,
was a good move.
Yeah, and the kind of the sad thing is they only said they're going to pay for 12 credits, which cuts off some of the requirements. It also probably adds to the length of school for some of those folks are going to have, because instead of graduating in, say, 4 years, you're going to have to graduate maybe in 5 years, and that's a downside. But on the other hand, education is always an issue between funding and the requirements of getting going forward, and compromise is there. So I'm just glad that the program's still going. John,
the governor was on the program, and he didn't seem to have a lot of faith in the state school board's ability to spend money wisely.
I was exceedingly disappointed with his comments. In fact, I watched your program twice that day, which was probably a mistake. Do that.
What did you do to anger him?
I'm not exactly sure at this particular point. Let me indicate to you that
Howard knows.
You breathe. Stop it immediately.
Obviously, I took a position, and so did the State Board, pretty well opposed to 404 as it was being written. I read it again last night, and I'm still as confused about it convoluted is probably the kindest thing I can say about 404.
Would you very briefly explain that?
Yeah.
Well, it creates a Commission on Excellence, tries to merge that Commission on Excellence with the school improvement plan policies put in place. I'm trying to simplify this. Frankly, if I were to explain it, it would take longer than my 2-hour lecture that I'm going. The fact is that if all works on schedule and everything works with harmony, there is a slim chance we can make this thing work. But we have a camel that was supposed to be a horse designed by a committee of 63, which at this particular point has a 67 when you add the lieutenant governor and all that kind of thing to it. I think there is a slim chance of doing positive things with this. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll get nearly the bang for the buck we could have gotten had we had more continuity. We used to say we have 11 left hands trying to figure out what the right hand's doing. We now have 12 left hands trying to figure out what the right hand is doing.
This is now the 12th panel that's going to be doing education in the state.
No one is running public education in the state of Nevada. Somewhere along the line we have to consider what we're going to do about that.
Okay, let's move on to the university system. Howard Rosenberg. Jim, I should, as always, mention that Jim Rogers is the owner of Sunbelt Broadcasting. He owns KBBC and KRNV and Channel 123 down in Las Vegas.
And is the chancellor.
And is also the chancellor of the university system.
And your question is?
Well, my question is...
And an honest answer, please.
You know, $200 million, $100 million more than the governor, the university system had asked for. It seems like he did a pretty good job at the legislature as far as the university system goes. Would you agree?
At this particular point, yes. When I see how it's spent, then we'll talk. But until I see that, I'm not entirely sure what's happening. The thing that's bugging me more than anything else, Sam, and it goes across the board for all public education, is there are a bunch of committees that are put together to do excellence in education. The people that are not consulted are the people that are actually doing the education. That's the teachers in the classroom. I have had 4 student teachers out in the public schools this last semester, and I have never been so discouraged in my life at what I am seeing. Because parents do not respect education. Parents do not respect teachers, and it is almost an impossible job to educate kids so that when I get them at the university, I can do something with them myself. Now, that's not the chancellor's problem. That's not anybody else's problem. We've got to start dealing with education K through 16, all the way up, so that there is a seamless transition. And I'm not talking about just classes. I'm talking about respect for education, what it can do, and how it can improve the standing in this state. It needs to be attended to.
Well,
and all these little games that are being played in between are enough to drive you nuts.
I think the move to go to K to 16 instead of K-12 and then the university system on the other side is a train wreck waiting to happen. And I think we ought to force the issue, say, hey, we're going to talk about it all K to 16, and that's the move. And I think we also got to start talking about the high side of what goes on in education. And I think Howard mentioned the right word, and that's respect. You know, sometimes public education takes a beating, but I think we have to look at the respect word and say, you know, folks, a lot of people are doing a lot of good things here, and it doesn't help to continually criticize and be derogatory towards education. Let's take a look at saying, well, what the good things we can do about it. And I think you're going to see a lot of people feel a lot better about themselves. You're going to feel parents feel a lot better about what's going on, and we'll be a lot better off as a state and a society.
The thing for me is, if you have a toothache, you go to the dentist. If you have a car problem, you take it to a garage mechanic. But everyone is an expert in education. I'm sorry. Until you're in the classroom with 30 kids or 25 kids or 35 kids, you don't know what it is that is being faced in the public school system. It can work, but that working has to be supported by people at home.
The most significant point Howard has made here is that by subdividing public education, we have left public education in the hands of LCB.
Yep.
Got it.
The fact of the matter is the state board in this state is LCB. The expertise
For our viewers that don't know, that's Legislative Council Bureau, the legislature.
The expertise of LCB in public education could be put in your cup. So under those circumstances...
It's a big cup, but it's not that. I think that's where we have to leave this. But here's the good news is, let's continue this discussion throughout the next few months here while the political season cools down and before we get into the election cycle. And let's discuss some of the points that you guys have raised here today, and we'll have you back to do it.
Yeah, and work on some solutions.
We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers with more pundits after this.
For a videotape copy of any Nevada Newsmakers program, call 775-857-2244. The tapes are $20 each, including shipping.
My family started this business 27 years ago. We work hard to serve our customers and our community.
But it's getting harder and harder to keep the doors open.
For example, our workers' comp is going through the roof. Isn't anyone on my side anymore?
The Retail Association of Nevada is. If you're a small business owner, we can cut your workers' comp by up to 50%, lobby for your interests, and keep you informed. Put us to work today.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
If it's fun, it's here at the Peppermill, the $100,000 video-themed slot celebration, with more winners each week, 100 random winners every Monday and Wednesday, and more cash prizes. $6,000 random drawings every Friday, plus chances to win up to $1,000 in free slot play on Mr. Money's Challenge. You'll have more fun with the Peppermill's video-themed slot celebration, now worth over $100,000.
The slots that rock are at the Peppermill. Where are you winning?
Your best value in sight is here for you to see. From frames to lenses to eye exams, you're covered A to Z. Davis Optical, your best value in sight.
Davis Optical Centers, with 2 locations in Reno and Sparks.
Davis Optical, your best value in sight.
You are watching Nevada Newsmakers.
And our next Power Pundit panel today, Marlene Lockard is here with Capital Strategies, Alfredo Alonso with Lionel, Sawyer and Collins, and Mary Lau, Executive Director with the Retail Association of Nevada, one of our proud sponsors. Welcome to all of you. Let's start out. Mary, was this a good session, bad session, or intermittent for business?
I think it was a good session for business. A lot of the bills out there were bad for business, but I think the business community did quite well. I'm sorry the bank mess didn't get straightened out, but for business as a whole, it turned out a lot better than it could have. The atmosphere looked pretty rough, and then we had a lot of bills out there that were sort of anger management type of bills, and it sort of went away.
What happened? Did the banks get any kind of relief, even in the rurals, for that $7,000 per franchise fee?
Yeah, they got kind of a little piecemeal hand-me-down thing. I think they got $500,000, or was it $550,000, which would take care of a single branch in all of the rurals. And I don't know that there was a piece in there that included the payroll tax or not. I'm not sure.
How did the hospitals end up?
Hospitals end up a lot better than they could. That was a war zone completely. So I think the hospitals fared quite well, and as this program said several times, you know, every single time it's another segment of the business industry, so we'll see who's on the spit next time.
Yeah, we heard that the hospital bill had been pulled out and then new language put in and brought to the floor rather clandestinely on, I think it was Friday night or Saturday night. So
there was a lot of clandestine tries, but that didn't work this time.
That had no chance of passing. And when not only did they have a good session, business had a great session. The payroll tax got rolled back. The bank bill that happened, or the hospital bill, is no harm at all to the hospitals.
But the payroll tax is only 2 years, though, right?
But the payroll tax was rolled back. Okay. There was quite a bit of relief in a number of areas for businesses. Money put into economic development in areas. Business had a very good session.
Alfredo, let's talk about gaming. There were 2 major neighborhood gaming bills, one in the north, one in the south. Tell us what the final results were.
Well, the final result was that the gaming bill that came out at the beginning of the session, which essentially closed the loophole within it wasn't necessarily a neighborhood gaming bill. What it was it allowed you to move a gaming license after a condemnation. So that condemnation loophole was closed, and then that was after it got out of the first house when the neighborhood gaming issues from Southern Nevada were added on. Those ended up, there wasn't a consensus, and ultimately 574 contained the original bill.
And that was a huge battle between the culinary union and Boyd gaming
Yes, it was, and ultimately there wasn't consensus on that portion of it, so the bill died.
Well, Marlene, you had said earlier today that there are definitely losers in this battle, and we talked about who won and who lost, but you had a comment that there definitely was a group of losers in this legislature, and who is that?
Thank you, Randy. I wasn't going to say that on air.
Okay, well, I put you on the spot, hon.
I appreciate that. Well, I think any way you look at it, the Assembly Democrats were losers in this session. They had a great majority in the Assembly. You look at their main issues, all-day kindergarten, the governor won, rebate, the governor won, the Millennium Scholarship caused a special session over it. An hour later, the governor won. Lottery dead, minimum wage dead. Those go to a vote of the folks, but what they were advocating died. And the bottom line, they came away with prescription drugs.
Well, and that one, who knows now that now you've got a Supreme Court decision that takes away medical marijuana. What happens on that? I don't know.
I don't know if those are necessarily, the Assembly Democrats necessarily lost on that. All of those bills, there were compromises. Full-day kindergarten, Perkins wanted at-risk schools, he got it.
That's exactly what the governor proposed in his State of the State.
Yeah. Okay.
And so if you look, they drew the line in the sand several times this session, and several times they receded to the governor's position. And look, I'm a good Democrat, but reality is reality. It is what it is. They lost all of those major battles.
Okay, Mary, how much of an influence was the governor's race in '06?
The governor's race in '06 has been, it was I don't know if it was an influence. I think it was a stumbling block, and it was something that we had to keep getting around to so that we could get back to policy and get back to good decisions and stuff. And it created a problem. I don't think it was an influence. I'm probably going to cause a real problem for myself here, but Perkins has not been strong in the Assembly or leading the Assembly, and Buckley has had to shore that up all the time. So he sort of walked away from that, still trying to do the governor's race, and Alfredo hasn't hit me yet for making that comment. But it was a stumbling block, not an influence.
Well, and if you're saying that the Assembly Democrats were the losers in this, was Perkins too focused on the Freudian slip, governor's race versus what was actually happening this session?
I have no idea, but he absolutely disappeared the last 3 weeks of the session.
See, I disagree.
He was not in one leadership negotiating meeting, Alfredo. He was not. Now, he did not close down this session. It was Barbara Buckley, Sheila Leslie, and Chris G.
Oh, I agree that those three had a big hand in it, but I think Perkins set the policy the entire session. I completely disagree that
Which
Assembly
did not
Democrats
get passed.
had a bad session. I think that they got almost everything they wanted. So I think at the end of the day, I think leadership in both houses did a very good job. I don't think you had a lack of leadership on the Assembly side. I don't think you had it on the Senate side either. But I think at the end of the day, I think the governor of Nevada won. I think Nevadans won in general, and I think you had a good session.
And that's where we got to leave it. We'll be right back with more Pundits after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
For more than a decade, the Southern Nevada Water Authority has been helping the community embrace conservation as a way of life. That includes replacing more than 50 million square feet of grass with water-smart landscaping. During the worst drought on record, watering restrictions and tough landscaping codes have reduced the community's water use by billions of gallons, even as thousands of new residents were moving into Nevada. That's smart water management, and that's our promise to Nevada.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The Resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
You bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they've saved others 50%.
Works for me. Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
As an employer, did you know you can be held liable for negligent hiring? A background screening by Employer Links can uncover criminal records, like alcohol and drug convictions. It can verify the applicant's education, driving records, and professional licenses. Employer Links can check civil records, registered sex offender records, and Social Security fraud. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
You are watching Nevada Newsmakers.
And our third pundit panel of the day today, Michael Hackett is here with Alrus Consulting, Jason Geddes, former Assemblyman, and Fred's son Mike Willoughby is here, the Governor's Chief of Staff.
All right, I'm going to start with Mike.
All right.
I could ask, what did the State Board of Education do to upset the government, but I won't go there. Marlene Lockard just said the governor won in all of these major battles against Assembly Democrats. So are you glad for that? Are you taking the victory lap or what?
Yeah, we feel very good about the governor's agenda. We thought it was a good agenda going in. Anytime you set up an argument and it's about how do you best spend $100 million fixing failing schools, and that's what we argue over, but it's still $100 million, you're committed to doing that, that's okay, we'll take that. I think those are arguments about very good, meaningful things. I think the governor laid out a good agenda. He did a great job. Got a great staff that works with us. We had a great session. I can't
How
deny
irritated
that.
was he at 1 o'clock in the morning, Tuesday morning, when he had to call the special session?
Not really. He's a great guy to work for. We sat down with leadership and said, look, let's stay here. Let's get it done. Don't give everybody a chance to go home and get some sleep and reload. Let's get this over with.
Let's make them suffer.
It's one news cycle. Let's get it done. They were committed. It was a fairly short list of stuff. We got things moving. Their staff did a great job over at LCB. They were tired. They were tired as we all were. We got it done. I think it was the right thing to do. It wasn't about irritation. He had a great comment yesterday. You set off on that kind of a journey. Yeah, you missed by a little bit at the end. It wasn't a complete disaster.
Well, I'm curious, were you surprised at all, former Assemblyman who went through 2 special sessions, were you surprised at all that they went over?
I was surprised, yeah.
Really?
I woke up actually a little after 1, went down and checked my computer thinking it would all be done to check on a bill that I was interested in, and saw that they were still going, and I thought, oh, Lord. I thought they would be able to wrap it up, and it just seemed to be a little clash at the end that pushed it over. But they did do it rather quickly and got it done and got home.
Now, what were some of the business issues this time that really kind of separated the legislature? I know, obviously, the rectifier bill that you worked on, the liquor. How did that come out? I mean, is it defining liquor distribution, or?
What it did add some clarification to the 3-tier system as it is currently constructed. Basically, what that did for a client of ours that we were representing in that issue, they do business in California as a rectifier. They were looking to move their operations here to Story County. In California, they operate in a Tier 2 category. Ultimately, what happened with that bill, it was formerly Assembly Bill 553. The contents got rolled into Assembly Bill 221 with some pretty significant modifications, but the bottom line is it did add some clarification, and it's pretty good from a policy point of view. What it did, though, is it put the rectifier into Tier 1, which is consistent with other manufacturers and suppliers. So at least the policy is much clearer now for companies that do this type of activity of rectifying. If they want to come into this state and do business, they know exactly where they stand.
But they can't actually come in, can they?
Pardon?
Can they actually come in?
Yes, they can come in. Yes, they can.
Are they going to? I mean, I had heard that they were pretty upset with this anti-competitive stab in the legislature.
That's what we felt the bill was like as it was originally introduced in AB 553, but as it was modified and rolled into AB 221, it is different than that. Our client specifically does more activities than just rectifying. I still don't think this new bill is going to allow them to do everything, but like I say, from a policy point of view, it's actually pretty good. But whether it's enough to get them here, we'll see.
Okay, let's apart from the governor, let's go down the road here. And biggest winners, biggest losers.
Well, we felt like we had a very good session, obviously, from our point of view. Some good things for Nevadans. Having a special session is never a good idea. I think those start to take their toll over time, especially when, from the negative point of view would be when you just can't figure out how to spend money, and that's really what it was about at the end, and some personalities. So it's a little bit of it's a little bit of a loss for the legislature, but again, I think they buckle down, get that done in 12 hours, and go home. It's not horrible.
Yeah, and I think Ms. Buckley put it best when she was talking about moving the deadlines around a bit. There was this crunch at the end again, but there were a lot of times where they were sitting around and standing around waiting for things throughout the session. So it needs to be managed better through the session. One of the things, just my personal interest, I thought the energy issues came out very well in Senator Townsend's bill, the Green Building Bill, some energy retrofit legislation. A lot of that came out for the energy side that'll be very good. The water still didn't get addressed very well, I don't think.
And that was supposed to be one of the biggest issues.
One of the biggest issues. All the governor candidates, everybody talked about it, and what we came out with was an interim study, which...
But I think they didn't do any damage, and they had the real potential to start putting the political process into water law, and that would have been devastating to the state.
It's a very political process.
It is now.
You're not injecting. I mean, it is political, and it is a fight.
And especially with what was on the table as far as the water issues as well, too. I mean, you had increases to the transfer fees. You have this whole, this massive pipeline project that they're proposing, the implications on that, and how that would be impacted by legislation that was on the table. So it was a lot more complex, I think, for them to deal with, and I think that's why you didn't see so much action.
And the legislature gave about $1 million to the rural counties for studies to help them, in their battles with the Southern Nevada Water Authority. Another of our proud sponsors. We thank you all for being here.
Beat up on those sponsors. Being fair.
Thank you.
We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers. Thanks, guys.
You bet.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
High-tech companies demand perfect world amenities. They require clean, reliable power, state-of-the-art fiber optic communications, and clean water sources. In a perfect world, companies would have immediate access to rail and interstate freeways. There would be 4-lane expressways that shorten shipping times and provide convenient commute routes for valued employees. Well, the future is now, and it's here. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
My family started this business 27 years ago.
We work hard to serve our customers and our community.
But it's getting harder and harder to keep the doors open.
For example, our workers' comp is going through the roof. Isn't anyone on my side anymore?
The Retail Association of Nevada is. If you're a small business owner, we can cut your workers' comp by up to 50%, lobby for your interests, and keep you informed. Put us to work today.
South Reno's hotspot for food, fun, and friends is the Tamarack Junction. Play over 480 of the hottest slots and video poker games. Enjoy hot times and sizzling food specials at Sully's Sports Bar, Grill, and Nightclub. Watch your favorite game on one of our jumbo high-definition plasma TVs. Enjoy great food 24 hours a day in the Dining Car Restaurant. Or sample the best hot and cold sandwiches in the Whistle Stop Deli. The Tamarack Junction is your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amati Ranch Parkway. Yeah.
We have the CEO of Sierra Pacific Resources, Walt Higgins, to talk about Enron.
We'll see you tomorrow on the next Nevada Newsmakers. Thanks for watching.